Reading of God's Word. Luke chapter 6, verse 45. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. Psalms 19, verse 7 through 14. The law of the Lord is perfect, refreshing the soul. The statutes of the Lord are trustworthy, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, giving joy to the heart. The commands of the Lord are radiant, giving light to the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The decrees of the Lord are firm, and all of them are righteous. They are more precious than gold, than much pure gold. They are sweeter than honey, the honey from the honeycomb. By them your servant is warned. In keeping them there is great reward. But who can discern their own errors? Forgive my hidden faults. Keep your servant also from willful sins. May they not roll over me. Then I will be blameless, innocent of great transgression. May these words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be pleasing in your sight. Lord, my rock and my redeemer. This is the word of the Lord.
Hi. Thank you, Vanessa. So we are in this series called That's In There, where we're focusing in on passages that are just, sometimes they're just like a little bit gritty. Sometimes when you get to them, they're like, you may read through them or think that they're not that big of a deal, but they are. And so we're trying to find passages that are a little bit more like a punch in the gut and investigate instead of jumping over them, going back to them. And as we're getting into that, if you've got your Bibles or if you've got your notes, you can go ahead and stay there because we're going to be in those passages today. But as we're just starting off, I just want to tell you, it is so cool to be a part of a church that in the midst of everything that's going on, we're a church that gathers. We're a community of Christ followers who are committed to being real with God, real with each other, and real in the world. And showing up like this is part of the conditioning of letting this rhythm be something that centers our week. And so I'm so glad that you're here. All right, so if you've got your Bibles, turn there. But today what we're going to talk about specifically is just that notion of, and actually, I'm sorry, Vince, if you could advance the slide. We're going to be talking about the fact that sometimes when we're thinking about, okay, I think my phone's good now. That's where it came from. This is something that was said by our staff recently. There was, I don't know if you've been in your house when you've walked through and all of a sudden there's like this weird, funky smell emanating from the fridge or one of your son's rooms. You know, that's just something odd and off. And you're walking by and you're like, what's going on? Where's that coming from? Well, we have that. I mean, this is a church building. We have lots of ministries going on and lots of things happening. And every once in a while, there's like just funky smells. And usually those funky smells you're able to find them fairly quickly. This one was a mystery. And it was emanating from the basement. And it was emanating from a particular room of the basement. It was like the storage room. And it's a storage room that gets like all the youth stuff and Spy Kids stuff and everything else, and sometimes it gets just absolutely it's a mess and just needs to be reorganized. And it was something that just needed to be reorganized for weeks and weeks and weeks. And so we're like, this is a huge job. We need someone to fix this and figure this all out. And so we told the youth pastors to do it. So youth pastors went on over and they start to clean through it. And specifically because of this smell, again, you walked by the room and it was like something's dead in there. And we don't want to find it, and that's why we sent, Jason and Marco and Chris. And so they all go there and they start to organize the room and tear it all apart. And we're just like, they're going to find a rat or like a possum, small child. Something's going to be back there that's like stinking. It's been, whatever. And so like they go through and it was one of those wonderful moments when all of a sudden we got a Slack. Our whole staff's on Slack, and we all got Slacked a picture of what was producing this smell. Apparently, there was this box that had all of these cartons of eggs from June, from Spy Kids. And in the like rush to get things like taken from one event to another, there was all these eggs that were used for this one particular event. Somebody put them in this bin and they just took it downstairs and put stuff on it, and it was forgotten until the smell emanated. And we're like, where in the world is that coming from? Then all of a sudden, That's where it came from. And it's not just with smells. I don't know if you've ever done this if you've been around people that are from like a different region of the country or a different region of the world where you hear their accents and you're trying to figure out where they came from. Like some of you are really good at it. Like you figure out, okay, they're totally Australian or you know what, this person is from somewhere in Asia, and I could pinpoint that it's Korea, not Japan, because you could just, that's where that dialect, that accent came from. Have you ever wondered where we actually get the words that we say or how we use the words that we say? Like where that came from? Sometimes it's one of those things where if you've hung out with someone and they just talk a certain way, they use a certain kind of language, they just talk in a certain way that you're just like, okay, that's just them. Or when they're really angry, this is what they say. Or when they're really happy, this is what they say. When something is really good, this is how they express it. And you're like, oh, that's just them. And then you hang out with their family. The family that they grew up with. And you hang out with their dad or their mom and you're like, oh, I've hung out with your mother now. That's where it came from. I hung out with your father. That's where it came from. And some of you, that was like a reveal when you were dating someone. You were dating someone, you couldn't figure out why they were the way they were, and then you met their parents. And you're like, oh, that's where it came from. That concept is like one of those easy things where we can kind of trace it back. We can trace it back to the point of origin for people, but Jesus goes even deeper than that. Jesus actually starts to communicate it this way. This is the passage that Vanessa wrote that she just read for us. The good person out of the good treasure of his heart produces good, and the evil person out of the evil treasure produces evil. So it's not just like, oh, well, this is the family I grew up with, or these are the people I hang with, and so that's why I talk the way I do. It's deeper than that. He actually uses this word right here. This word is this Greek word that's not, we read it in the NIV, but I have the ESV up here because I think the ESV gets it better. In the NIV, it says, a good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart. So he's like the NIV uses it like a verb, like the idea of storing something. But the original Greek, it's not a verb, it's not an action, it's a location. The good person goes to the storehouse, the treasury of his heart. And out of that treasury, he brings forth the words that he's going to say. And so he's saying that the difference between a person that's good or bad, honestly, a lot of times you can look at not how they're acting all the time or not by the labels that they have on them, but instead where their treasure is, the treasury of their heart, where they're stored. In the ancient world, if you want to, you didn't go to the bank all the time. What you did was you had like a storehouse where you have grain, and you had to be wise, and you'd intentionally put into that storehouse grain over and over again, because you know that there's going to come a day that you're going to be in need, and you go over to the storehouse and make a withdrawal. You make a withdrawal of the grain, and then you have it. And the intentionality and the wisdom of that would be that you wouldn't store garbagey grain, you wouldn't store rotten grain, or you wouldn't store Spy Kids eggs, because you know that this is not going to be helpful to you down the road when you need it most to go and make a withdrawal. And so the idea of a storehouse was like this intentionality of storing good stuff in this good place and being able to access it. Now what Jesus does is he goes and he uses another awesome Greek word for heart. And it's the word cardios. That's where we get the word cardiac from and all that. Cardios is not just like the organ of the heart. It's like the centerpiece of our thoughts and our feelings. Some people are like, you should use your brain more than your heart. Don't lead with your feelings. Feelings don't care about facts don't care about your feelings. You should think about stuff. But in this Greek word, it fuses the two. It's like it's not just thoughts, it's feelings. And there's a place where you feel that. If you get broken up with, you don't feel it here. You feel it here. If somebody betrays you, you don't feel it here. You might be thinking about it here, but you feel it in your gut, in the center of you. And this word cardios is the word for center. It's the place, the seat of all of my emotions and my thoughts. It's like how I make decisions. I'm making decisions by how I'm thinking and processing and feeling about stuff. And so that's all like right here. And that's the word that Jesus said. That is the storehouse. Maybe a better word is bank. Because we don't understand storehouses. We don't store a bunch of stuff in a shed that we go to and access and make withdrawals from today. We go to a bank. And if we're wise, we put money in that bank because we know that at some point we're going to have to go back and make a withdrawal when we need it most. And Jesus says we unconsciously go back to the bank of our cardios, our heart, where our thoughts and our feelings are all the time. Life produces situation after situation after situation of what we are putting in here that we're withdrawing. Maybe a simple way to put this is simply this: you say what you save. You say what you save. Whatever you've saved in the bank of your heart, whatever you've deposited in there over time, whatever that isn't just there. It's not just like something that comes into you and then out, or you experience it and it's gone. It's like you're banking it, you're saving it. And according to Jesus, what you eventually see happening is that you end up saying what you save. You say what you save. Let's say this just together on the count of three, just so we get it in our head. 1, 2, 3. You say what you save. It's real. It's true. So the question I have for you is simply this: what's in your heart's bank account? Like, what have you been saving? What have you been keeping? What have you been depositing? This isn't like a garbage in, garbage out message. This is like, what do you have in your heart's bank account? Because a lot of times we get confused with how we know what we have saved up in there. I'm going to have a friend of mine, Chuck, come up here. Chuck, if you can come up to the front. Chuck, I didn't tell him exactly what he's going to do, so he's brave. But what I'm going to do is I went to the grocery store and I got 2 sodas and I spray painted them both black. Now this isn't going to be this is not going to be like a taste test. Benji last night totally was excited there's going to be a Coca-Cola versus Pepsi taste test. It's not. I just spray painted both of these. I spray painted both of them black because it's very difficult to know what's inside. But I want you to, one of them is actually soda and one of them is water, okay? And so what I want you to do is I want you to pour for me the water, not the soda. Now, hold on a sec. All right, go for it. Hold on a sec. Go for it. Oh, yeah. Give it up for Chuck. You have chosen wisely. Whoa. Your cup overflows. Yeah. That's a good year. Manuka tap. Manuka tap. Here's the thing. According to Jesus, you really don't know. I mean, we've got lots of labels. Well, I'm a Christian, or I'm an atheist. I'm a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I don't care about this world. I care everything about this world. We have lots of labels. But it's really difficult to know what's on the inside. And according to Jesus, the real test of what's on the inside is opening up your mouth. It's when you open up your mouth. By the way, both of them were water. I didn't want to mess with you too much. And Benji would have killed me if I would have killed the television. When you open up the mouth, that's something that really, really lets you know what's on the inside. But life tells us it's not just in opening our mouth, because we can fake it for a long time, saying all the right stuff and be a genuinely legitimate person around most people. But it's when life shakes you up and you open your mouth. If you've been shaken by life, when you open up your mouth, that's what's on the inside. That's the test of what you've been investing in your bank account. It's not when life is going well, not when everything is going your way, relationally, vocationally, grade-wise, whatever. Anyone can be an awesome person when things are going awesomely. It's when life shakes you and you open your mouth, according to Jesus, that you know what a person has been banking in their heart's bank account. What have you been banking? Because, again, you say what you have been saving. Now, the truth is, when we think about this, one of the things that's important to remember, though, is that, that sounds super, this idea can be kind of daunting and maybe even a little, not judgmental, but demoralizing. Man, I'll be honest, when I'm with my friends, honestly, what I say is reasonably good. Or when I'm at work, I'm generally not cussing people out, generally. And so things are pretty good. But it's when I'm at home that all of a sudden I feel like there's, the way that I talk is just loosened out, where I become more of a more authentic, but authentically garbagey sometimes person. And the truth is that person, whatever I've been saving up, that person, that unprotected, unbuffered person, that's what I've been saving in my heart. That's what's in my bank account. I say what I save. And as bummer as that is, the reality is that Jesus is all about our heart. He did not want to simply just like clean up our mouth or clean up the way we talk or make us people that are, we look super religious. Because again, lots of people on the outside can have the label of being someone super religious or, I'm just all about Jesus. Jesus' thing was not just to protect the words that are coming out. His intentionality was to deal with our heart, to have a cardio workout within our heart where we're actually taking care of that. He wanted his followers to be the type of people who are healthy here so that when we open up our mouth in times of need and make a withdrawal from the bank account of our heart, the words that we're saying are words that we stand by and say, those words sound like Jesus. Those words are like Jesus, the way Jesus would respond in a similar situation. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go from that passage that Vanessa read, from David's Psalm, in Psalm 19, and look through that and as for our direction. And we could do that in three ways. The first way that we can actually save up things that are better, like do the heart work here, is to agree that his way is better. The first thing that we're doing is we're going to God and we're saying, as a follower of Jesus, I'm at my base point of understanding is that I don't have everything figured out, but you do. I don't have everything understanding, but you do. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to recognize right from the get-go and agree with the fact that as much as I feel like the way I am, the way that I roll, the way that I talk is like hardwired, I agree that your way is better. And David says this in Psalm 19. Or actually, the passage that she read earlier, that's all Psalm 19. But let's just look at the adjectives in that passage. And you can, if you've got your notes, they're there right in the text. But the adjectives are communicated are perfect in verse 7. Trustworthy, right, radiant, pure, firm, valuable, and sweet. God's way is these things. When we allow God's way to be the thing that we're depositing into us, this is the description. Can you say this about anything else that you're a part of? Any other thing that you're invested in, any political party you follow, can you say that it's perfect, trustworthy, right, radiant, pure, firm, valuable, and sweet? No, there's nothing on planet Earth. There's no relationship out there that's perfect, trustworthy, right, radiant, pure, firm, valuable, and sweet. Not perpetually all the time. But what we have from the psalmist David saying, that's what God's word is. God's way is this. When we allow that to be the thing that we're banking in our heart, we get that. And it has an effect. That's like at the beginning of verse 7, 8, 9, and 10. But the second part is describing this, the output, the effect in our life. And we have this in the effect of our life. That his words refresh my soul. They level the playing field of wisdom. In other words, when we go to God's word, you could have a pastor, a professor, and a second grader. A pastor, a professor, and a second grader, all who are going to God's word. And these guys are super smart. Maybe they've gone to school. And the second grader, he's just going, he's just over there in Mission Kids. But the Bible levels the playing field of wisdom. That means that every single one of these people have access to let God impact their heart. His wisdom levels the playing field. And sometimes it's not the pastor or the professor who get it right, because they think that they're always right. It's the second grader who knows that he doesn't know everything and is open to whatever God wants to do in his life. It's one of the bummer things about seeing people grow up. Like when you see when they're like, for me, like I loved seeing, when I was a youth pastor, I loved seeing junior hires and their love for Jesus because they don't care. They're bananas and they don't care. And that like absolute, just like whatever God wants. I love that. That's why I hated seeing them get to become ninth graders. Because ninth graders, all of a sudden, they're like, wait, hold on a sec. There are other variables at play right now. I got to think about how other people are seeing me. And all of a sudden, you see this like bright, vibrant person just get dull. The Bible levels the playing field of wisdom. It makes our heart joyful. It helps me see life clearly. If you haven't been seeing life clearly, maybe it's because you have not adopted God's perspective. It has no expiration date. In a world with fake news, his words aren't. They're valuable and more valuable than cash, and they taste great. This is the way that God's word is described. That last part of Psalm 19 there in verse 10, they are much more precious than gold. They are much more than pure gold. They are sweeter than honey on the honeycomb. Rabbis would take sections of scripture and they would read them to young like trainees, like the young Jedi Padawans of Judaism. They would like read God's word to them while giving them crackers with honey on it to remind them that this word to us is sweet like that. It tastes great. That's God's way. And that's the deposit that we make inside of us. David finishes off that section by saying, by them, your servant is warned. In keeping them, there is great reward. But then he makes a confession. This is the confession of every Christian. But who can discern their own errors? Like, here's the thing. Part of the reason I go to God is because I know that I get it wrong and I'm not trustworthy. I'm not perfect. I'm not pure, firm, or sweet. I'm not perpetually right. And because I'm not, and because I can't even know there's times where I'm trying to do the right thing and it still blows up in my face. Who can discern their own errors? Forgive my hidden faults. David's perspective is agreeing that, look, between God's way and my way, God's way, I agree with the fact that God's way is right. I agree with the fact that God's way is right. Now, if you're someone, when we get into the new year, a lot of people think through their life and say, okay, I got to do things differently in my life. I'm going to start eating differently, or I'm going to start working out, or I'm going to lose some weight, or I want to stop some bad habits I have, or start some good habits. I want to stop vandalizing my neighbor's house. Good things. People make these resolutions. They're good. And sometimes Christians say, you know what, one thing I want to do differently about this year is I actually want to get in this thing and let this thing speak into me. The cool thing is that we don't have to worry about getting into this thing. We go to this thing so this thing gets into us. So we start banking this, depositing this into our heart's bank account because you say what you save. And so I'm a broken record on this, but I'm a big fan. If you've got your phones, please take them out because you may not have this yet. If you just go to the App Store on your phone, if you don't have this yet, thank you. Thanks, Charlie. And go ahead and just do a search for Bible. If you see this icon, this is the YouVersion. It's one of the weirdest, it's kind of a lame icon, but I love it because it's noticeable. This is the icon for YouVersion. YouVersion is free, and they don't pay me any money. I wish that they did because I talk about them all the time because I think it's great because I'm a McFadden and I'm a big fan of free. We are the family that if there is a 30-day trial, we will find a way to make that 30 days last a year and a half if we can. Okay, that's because we like free. YouVersion is a free app where you could basically go and get into the Bible any which way you can think of. And it has so many different plans. If you don't have it yet, definitely jump into it. All right, let me see. Vince, I think I'm having some issues here. Sorry. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. This is the thing that I always tell people. Once you've downloaded YouVersion, go do a search for this. This app is so incredibly helpful. It's just one of those things that always is causing us to get into the Bible, causing me to get into the Bible better. I'm the type of person that is visual, and so what these guys do is they go through and they have they basically can tackle different books of the Bible and explain them, and they do it with animation. If you see, this is the book of Genesis. So sometimes people are like, man, I just don't understand the Bible, or I don't understand the Old Testament. And so what the cool thing about this whole concept is that they try to tackle hard books and animate it, like in an 8-minute animation. For grown-ups, they take theologians, like theological level, graduate level stuff, and they reduce it down to an animation of 8 minutes for every book of the Bible. They've got different subjects that are in the Bible, and all you gotta do is go to YouVersion, go ahead and go next slide, and just basically search for Bible Project, and they've got just tons. They've got like 6-day reading plans. They've got 365, like I want to read the whole Bible in a year. They've got a reading plan for that comes with the animations as you get into each book. It help you understand what you're reading, which is so helpful. If you get COVID, there's I'm sure COVID length Bible plans, I don't know, but they're in here, and whatever you're looking to get into, it's there. And so I want to challenge you, if you're someone that's not currently reading the Bible, you're not making deposits in the bank account of your heart. You say what you save. Are you saving God? Are you agreeing that His way is better? If you're not, step into it. Some of you are kind of sporty, and this next plan is one that I came across because of Bill Pierce. This is a reading plan. It's actually an app. If you go to your app store and just go ahead and search for UPI, that's an I in there, it's Unlimited Potential Inc., and it was developed by a bunch of former professional baseball players who love Jesus. And they just wanted to help athletes basically stay in God's word. And so these former professional athletes developed UPI. And Bill's he swears by it. He's got friends that are helping him stay accountable in their reading plans and stuff. It's so cool. So all that to say, the bottom line is you say what you save. You're somebody that is perpetually making deposits? Are you making deposits from God's word? And there's several others. My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, other people, super, super important. Okay, that's the first, to agree that His way is better. The second is to clear out mental habits that you've saved but are in conflict with the way of Jesus. To clear out mental habits that you've saved, but they're in conflict with the way of Jesus. Again, over time, we've made deposits into our heart in such a way that sometimes even unconsciously, they've added up. One of the key things for a Christian is to evaluate the mental habits that we've been saving up. And honestly, some of them that are the easiest to defend, but they're in conflict with Jesus, and say that I can't do that anymore. This is what David said. David said, keep your servant also from willful sins. May they not rule over me. Then I will be blameless, innocent of great transgressions. One of the things that we have to know is that if we're someone who has been alive for 7 years, we've started to have unhealthy deposits in the bank account of our heart that causes us to hold on to those. Experiences of disappointment, experiences of people letting you down, experiences of joy and wonder, great things. But these things all add up. In your notes, I put rage. Some of us we've had an attitude where, you know what, there's certain things that I'm allowed to explode about because, you know what, there's certain things that I should be angry about. And so what we do is we just basically condition and recondition anger. You know what, there's a lot of injustice in the world and I'm sick of it. And so I'm just going to continue to bank up this sickness and this frustration. And you know what, I'm really professional at being able to be in front of people and be like super kind and compassionate. But honestly, inside there's like all this stuff that's baking up, and it's rage. Some of us have grown up with a perspective towards gossip. Like, it's totally okay to like trash people behind their backs. It's okay to talk about people that are doing messed up stuff that I have no relationship with, or I'm in relationship with, but it feels really good to talk about them. And over time, we just continue putting more into the bank account of that's totally okay. It's totally legitimate, and it's not. Lust. If you're someone who's objectifying someone, whether they're male or female, and you're objectifying this person, you're basically saying, I'm constantly looking at females, or I'm constantly looking at males' body, and just like zeroing in on that, you're making deposits in the bank account of your heart. It's not just something you're thinking about and it goes away. It's something that you're banking. You're making a deposit. Self-absorption. Even apathy. Some of us feel like, look, it's not like I feel like I've got nothing in the bank account of my heart. Like the deposits are like, I'm withdrawing, I'm overdrawing because I've got nothing there. The reality is that all of us are making these constant deposits. And the question is, what are you depositing? And is it something that you've stopped and said, I got to clear out this thing that I was raised with? One of I've told the story so many times, but one of my most poignant memories of being raised in my family with my dad is a moment in high school when my dad was my dad and I got in this fight. We didn't fight a lot. I was a pretty reasonable kid. I was pretty passive aggressive with my dad, but I don't know. I kind of flew under the radar. I wasn't the McFadden kid that always got in a fight with my dad. But this one time we just got into it. I was probably a junior in high school, and I was just like so frustrated and like bam, 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 and my dad just exploded on me. My dad was someone who didn't explode a lot, but when he exploded, and all of a sudden I was on the receiving end of that, and I was so hurt and angry and ticked because he was wrong. And I remember storming off to my room and slamming the door and laying in my bed and just like laying and looking at my brother's bunk bed above my bed and just staring at it. It's just like these hot, burning tears just coming down my face. And I'm just so mad. I'm so mad that he made me feel that way. And a couple minutes go by and I just hear, I'm not going to answer that. And he walked in anyway because he owns the house. And I didn't even see him because I was just staring at the top of the bunk bed. And he pulls up like my desk chair and he puts it next to the bed and he sits down and he just sighs. And he says, Arol, I've tried my whole life to keep your grandpa, Everett McFadden, out of how I respond to you kids, how I respond to life. I try to keep Everett McFadden and the way that he treated me away from how I treat you. And I try, and I try, and I try, but every once in a while, Everett McFadden comes out. And I'm sorry. Because that doesn't reflect how you should be treated. It doesn't reflect my relationship with God, our Heavenly Father. And I just want to tell you, I'm sorry. And he left. As a junior in high school, I was just blown away by that. I didn't tell him anything. I was still staring at the top of the bunk bed, but that made a huge impact on my life. Fast forward to a couple days ago. My senior in high school is having an argument that he's trying to win with my wife, which is dumb. You're not going to win. She's right, you're wrong, and so I'm in the other room, I'm working on something, and I'm just hearing this, I'm like, come on, this has got to stop, come on, this has got to stop, come on, but it's not, and then I hear Julie say, Arol, can you come in here and help me, please? And then it was like the blood just starts to boil. It's like, okay, I have to move. I'm moving. Okay, he's dead. And that was like just in my head. And so I'm walking into on over there, and I'm just like, seriously? Because I've heard the whole conversation. I was done with it too. But it was one of those things where it's just, and all of a sudden, as he's sitting there looking smug, like just exactly like I looked when I was in high school towards my parents, all of a sudden it was just like, you might think that I'm a laid-back guy. And I am, until I'm not. And all of a sudden, Dennis McFadden explosion comes out, which was really Everett McFadden explosion comes out. And I just laid into Carson. I told him to shut his face. And I told him to get out of the kitchen. And I could say that because I own the kitchen. And I needed to cool off because I was really ready to say even more than I had already said, and I didn't want to say what I was going to regret. And then all of a sudden, as I'm like sitting there, as he's out of the room, I'm just like thinking, man alive, like why is this something that just keeps repeating itself every generation? Because now guess what I've done? I've now taken the baton from Dennis, who took it from Everett, and I've handed it to Carson. What do you have in the bank account of your heart that you've been handed that you need to get out? And it might not be exploding. It might be like what I normally do, which is just passive-aggressive, annoying, but is just as toxic. Being smug or elitist when you're talking to someone, making them feel like an idiot, which is just as toxic. What are the unhealthy habits, ungodly habits that you have that you need to find yourself evacuating from your heart, getting them out of who you are? May these words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, Lord. This is how David finishes this. And the thing I love about David is that David is not like this spectacular, shining picture of godliness. This guy did what you guys in this room, most anyone in this room has not. I'd be confident to say you haven't done what David did. David is a guy who used his power, his political power, to woo a woman who was married and had sex with her and got her pregnant and then arranged to have her husband killed. Most of you haven't done that this week. David did. And not only that, he gets right with God and he pours out his heart, confesses. And that doesn't end the drama because his family is crazy town. You see the ramifications of all the things that David had banked in his life and his lifestyle barfing itself all into his family, to the point that his kids, the way that his kids operated and acted would make Maury Povich blush. It was bad. This is not someone who always got it right, but this is someone that understood that there's someone that I know that did get it right, and that's God. God gets it right. And not only that, David was foreshadowing to the picture of the fact that Jesus, God himself, becomes man. And in the book of John, Jesus is described as the Word. The very thing that we struggle with what comes out of our mouth, is what Jesus described as the perfect word, because he's the final authority, and he is always good, and he is always trustworthy, and he is always right. And he's someone that we can go to. So we're saying, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, God. Deal with this cardias. Deal with the heart where I think, am I feeling, what I'm depositing. Help me clear out the garbage and things that I've been layering over time, and instead have a picture of who you are. And that leads us to the third reality, because not only do we agree that his way is better, not only do we clear out the mental habits that we've saved but are in conflict with the way of Jesus, but before you speak, remember a few things. If you've done those things, I agree with God, and I've also been saying, God, I want you to evacuate out all the bad. I want to make the deposits that are right. Then before you speak, remember, God is love. God loves you. God loves them. Now talk. Before you speak, go through that. I wish that in that kitchen I would have been thinking this. I wish that all of us, before we interact with people that just press our hot button, or before we start talking, again, Jesus said that out of the mouth, you know what's inside of the heart. Before you speak, remind yourself of who you are. God is love. One of the things that we see in Scripture is God is holy, like we sang before. He is perfect. He has every right to be wrathful against our sin and kick us to the curb. And yet this God, instead of being wrathful and judgmental against us, gives us grace and gives us mercy. Why? Because John said it, in the 1 John he says, it's because God is love. And everyone who is loved of God has the opportunity to reflect that. God is love. Not only that, God loves you. And that's important to remember before you start talking. Because oftentimes we get explosive, or we get sarcastic, or we get toxic because we're coming from a place of insecurity. I'm tired of being disrespected. I'm tired of people treating me this way. I'm tired of feeling like I have no one. I'm tired of feeling like everything I'm invested in is not satisfying me. I'm tired of this life. And out of the insecurity of that, oftentimes we start to open our mouth and we say things that are just messed up. If you've ever been in line at a grocery store and the lady, checking out all the groceries is just a jerk, or the person talking to the lady who's checking out things is a jerk, it's oftentimes because they are hurt by something going on in their week and no one listens to them, but this person has to. Remember, God loves you. God is love, and you are loved perfectly, completely. You don't need to add anything. But before you start talking to them, remember that God loves them. Yeah, but you don't understand what they've done. I don't. You don't know what they said. You're right. You got me. But if this person qualifies as an enemy, Jesus had a very distinct way we're supposed to treat enemies. And his command is to look at enemies and love them. God is love. God loves you perfectly, completely. And he loves them. Now talk. And let the overflow of that, speak into your life. Because you are, and you say, what you save. What I'd like to do in closing this service is to reread David's words together. So if you would stand, and I want us to read these words as a declaration and a dedication of the fact that I want to be a person. I want to be a follower of Jesus that's not simply showing up, and it's awesome to show up, but I want to walk out of here and not just do the right things, and I'm not just be making decisions that on the outside the label looks right, but honestly, if I was completely honest, the inside is messed up. I want to be the type of person that when life shakes me and I open my mouth, that what comes out is refreshing and reflective of him. And so here are the words. Let's read this together. The law of the Lord is perfect, refreshing the soul. The statutes of the Lord are trustworthy, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, giving joy to the heart. The commands of the Lord are radiant, giving light to the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The decrees of the Lord are firm, and all of them are righteous. They are more precious than gold, much pure gold. They are sweeter than honey from the honeycomb. By them your servant is warned. In keeping them there is great reward. But who can discern their own errors? Forgive my hidden faults. Keep your servant also from willful sins. May they not rule over me. Then I will be blameless, innocent of great transgression. May these words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Let's go live it out. We'll see you next week.